Our main story tonight concerns the news media. You know, the people who announced to the world that man had landed on the moon, World War II had ended, and who will one day announce my tragic death after a pelican swallows me whole. Look, I love corn dogs, the pier, and taunting large birds. It's only a matter of time. Trump has made no secret of his disdain for the media, but he's also been holding a lot of press conferences recently, which has highlighted the fact there is one media outlet he seems to really enjoy calling on.
Okay, a couple of questions. Go ahead, OAN. We'll take a few questions. Emerald, OAN, please, OAN. OAN, OAN.
Yes, sir.
Very good. Thank you very much. You treat me very nicely.
Okay, instinctively, you know that when Trump likes something that much, it's an immediate red flag. Take this capybara with an orange on its head. It seems excellent. But if Trump were to repeatedly say, I love that capybara with an orange on its head, you just know we're about to find out all the times that it wore blackface in college. OAN stands for One American News, and when you hear the kinds of questions that they ask, you begin to see why Trump calls on them so much.
Mr. President, your approval ratings have been the highest they've ever been, as well as the ratings on your handling of the virus. Yet there are some networks that are saying they're debating whether or not to carry these briefings live. Do you think there's a link between the two?
Well, I don't know. I know that, well, that's a nice question. Thank you very much.
Was that a nice question, though? I guess it depends on what your definition of one is. If a nice question is meant to extract any useful information at all, then it wasn't nice. But if it's one that makes the president feel happy for a brief instant before that feeling, like all feelings, is swallowed up by the unfathomable void that yawns within him always, then yeah, it was a very nice question. Very nice indeed. And OAN has a lot of nice questions for the president. When he was criticised for referring to the coronavirus as the Chinese virus, one of their correspondents rushed to his defence with this beauty.
Do you consider the term Chinese food racist because it's food that originates in China or it has Chinese
No, I don't think it's
and
racist.
On that note,
I don't think it's racist at all.
on that note, major left-wing news media, even in this room, have teamed up with Chinese Communist Party narratives, and they're claiming you are racist for making these claims about Chinese virus. Is it alarming that major media players just to oppose you are consistently siding with foreign state propaganda, Islamic radicals, and Latin gangs and cartels, and they work right here at the White House with direct access to you and your team?
Wow. It is pretty wild to watch the reactions of the other journalists there, who are clearly not used to getting bullshit from both sides of the room. That is a look that says, how did I wind up in the middle of this arsehole sandwich? And it's moments like that that explain why Trump has such a love affair with OAN. He has repeatedly praised them on Twitter. At one point, when he didn't like Shep Smith's coverage of his administration, he tweeted that Shep Smith has the lowest rated show on Fox News. Actually, whenever possible, I turn to OAN. And his family seem like fans too. Just this Thursday, in the midst of a pandemic, OAN spent nearly 15 minutes chatting with Don Jr., resulting in this fantastic exchange.
Are you binge watching anything over there? You got to be binge watching something.
Yeah, we basically watched Tiger King in 2 sittings. So it's sort of amazing. And I'm just really disappointed that I didn't know you could get a tiger for $2 grand. I'm like, it's a lot of money, but like, it's a tiger. That would have been pretty cool. To have had a tiger hanging around the house.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. That should absolutely not be your takeaway after watching that show. Tigers are surprisingly cheap. Also, it turns out you can hire a hitman for $3,000. What a deal. And look, OAN is a relatively small organisation, but you may well know someone who watches them, and they're punching way above their weight right now. And if they're in the White House press room, being called on all the time and are more supportive of the president than Fox, we thought tonight it may be worth taking a look at who they are and what they do. OAN is the brainchild of Robert Herring, conservative millionaire and sun-dried Jake Gyllenhaal. And since its birth, OAN has been a home for extreme conservatism. How extreme? Well, let's meet their hosts. For starters, there's Graham Ledger, who's called Black Lives Matter a criminal organisation. He's called being transgender a mental problem, and said of people coming to the US from majority Muslim countries, if they won't take a bite out of a pulled pork sandwich, we probably won't let them in the country. And it's wit like that that makes him the Noel Coward of meat sandwich-based race baiting. He starts every show with his signature catchphrase, "The doors to the newsroom are locked and the PC police are not getting in." And if that wasn't sweaty enough, he ends every show like this.
This edition of the Daily Ledger is on its way to the Archives Library of Congress. Thank you for watching. I'm Graham Ledger. And remember, even when I'm wrong, I'm right.
Yeah, he signs off that way every night. And for the record, we actually asked the Library of Congress whether the Daily Ledger is sent to its archives. And they told us, and I quote, "They have no record of the Daily Ledger being submitted, nor have we received the shows as a collection." And anyway, getting into the Library of Congress isn't remotely impressive. You know what's in there? Jersey Shore is in there. MILF Chronicles 4, Busty Mansions is in there. Even our show is in there. It's true. This is our listing in their catalogue. What I'm saying is, you wouldn't be keeping great company even if you were in there, which you're not. Then, of course, there's his catchphrase, "Even when I'm wrong, I'm right," which is even stupider. Why would you want to say something that implies that you're both shamelessly partisan and wrong a not insignificant part of the time? It'd make just as much sense if his catchphrase was, "Remember, even after I have explosive diarrhea, I'm still full of shit." Why would you admit either of those things? But it might actually be good that Ledger specifies his rightness even in wrongness, because he is wrong a lot, and always with a certain Ron Burgundy flair. Watch as he tries to dismantle Bernie Sanders' rhetoric.
Unfettered capitalism is what we should desire in this country. Unfettered capitalism is what made this country great in the Industrial Revolution. Carnegie and the other men that built this country in the late 1800s, I'm blanking, J.P. Morgan, the rest of them, Rockefeller, there's a name.
Yeah, there is a name. Nice save, Graham. And that's the kind of erudite historical insight that you can find in his book, The Industrial Revolution, how Andrew Carnegie and, the rest of them, J.P. Morgan and others, the Monopoly Man maybe, that's a name, built America through unfettered capitalism, oh shit, and Henry Ford. But Ledger isn't the network's only bright light. You already know Chanel Rion, OAN's White House reporter, whose speciality seems to be asking the questions that are on absolutely nobody's minds.
2,405 Americans have died from coronavirus in the last 60 days.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, you have 2,369 children who are killed by their mothers through elective abortions each day. That's 16,500 children killed every week.
Yeah.
Okay, that's obviously a rhetorical bad faith argument, but what the hell? Let's engage. There are thousands of abortions and thousands of coronavirus deaths, that's true. We can disagree on whether those things are equivalent. They're not. But if only one of them is growing exponentially every single day, that should probably be the one that we focus on right the fuck now. But by all means, come back to that question once abortions become involuntary and wildly contagious. Now, when Chanel Rion isn't asking nice questions in the White House press room, she also claims to be the best political illustrator in the country for constitutional conservative and anti-leftist causes, which, to be fair, is a very low bar to clear. Yet I'm not sure if this drawing of Rachel Maddow as wretched mad cow even manages to get over it. She also runs a Word of the Day website called Wordabees, a world of fine words, featuring artful tributes to floral language like Metanoia, Orphic, and Backpfeifengeschichte, which apparently means a face badly in need of punching. Her About page explains that if we don't nurture and grow our word realms, we don't nurture and grow our thought realms. And it's hard to know how to describe a sentence like that. Thankfully, Wordabees has an entry on fanfaronade, which means empty self-promoting language, and that seems to hit the nail right on the head. This website is so handy. Then there is Liz Wheeler, who is a big Trump favourite, and she can develop an argument. Just watch as over the course of 54 seconds, she spins an aquarium's simple decision not to announce the gender of a baby penguin into something very different.
We should ask, where does radical leftist gender ideology lead? Do liberals want human children to be genderless? If so, why? Is this based on biology? And if not, then what? what happens when human children are raised genderless? If gender is destroyed, doesn't that destroy traditional gender roles? And if gender roles are destroyed, doesn't that destroy gendered relationships? And if gendered relationships are destroyed, doesn't that destroy traditional marriage? And if traditional marriage is destroyed, doesn't that destroy the family unit? And if people aren't dependent on their families, then who do they depend on? That's right, the government, which is the goal of liberals in the first place. Don't let transgender penguins fool you.
Wow, that argument is a walk. I assume that she uses that same chain argument logic for everything. Ask yourself this: why do radical leftists want to expand health insurance? Do liberals want everyone to have health? And if everyone has health, doesn't that mean no one will ever die? And if no one ever dies, doesn't that mean Hitler would still be alive? And if Hitler is still alive, isn't World War II still happening? And if World War II is still happening, doesn't that mean our troops are still fighting? And if our troops are still busy fighting in World War II, who's defending America from terrorists? That's right, no one, which is the goal of liberals in the first place. Don't let polyamorous lobsters fool you. And look, it's not just hard right talking points. The network has actively given airtime to conspiracy theories. They put up a $100,000 reward for information on Seth Rich's murder. Last year, they travelled with Rudy Giuliani to Ukraine to shoot a multi-part series featuring his investigations there. And just recently, Chanel Rian hosted a special in which she boosted a conspiracy theory that the coronavirus might have originated as a bioweapon in a North Carolina laboratory. The whole selling point for OAN is that they are Fox News with even less shame and even fewer scruples. In fact, they're so flagrantly smitten with Trump that at one point their network account actually tweeted, "President Trump recently gave a speech thanking his supporters in the media. Not a single mention of One America News, one of his greatest supporters. OAN calls bullshit." And that is just pathetically thirsty. They shift from fawning praise to sullen fury if people stop complimenting them for a single second, although when you put it like that, you do kind of get what OAN and the president see in each other. And I know that it is easy to dismiss OAN as just a stupid, little-watched, borderline self-parody. The problem is, if we're learning one thing right now, it's that toxic things that start small can get big fast, and it's dangerous to ignore them. And right now, the president's putting a lot of energy into boosting OAN's profile. For instance, last week, even as the number of confirmed coronavirus cases in the US passed 65,000, Trump thought it was important that his Twitter followers see this video.
Guess what? Thanks to you guys, this book, my book, is number 4 on Amazon's bestseller list in the political commentary category. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much.
Yeah, he retweeted that with the note, "Buy the book and give Liz some great reviews," which would absolutely be weird enough, even if Liz Wheeler hadn't posted that video last August. And we all know the rules here. Liking someone's post is fine. Liking someone's post from 7 months ago is the creepiest thing on earth. And Trump has had their back in other ways. Just this week, the White House Correspondents Association actually revoked OAN's access to a seat in the briefings. The reason they did this was because most reporters had agreed to take turns attending to keep the room emptier and follow social distancing rules. But Chanel Rian repeatedly showed up on days that she wasn't assigned a seat. Yet despite having her seat revoked on Wednesday, Rian was back in that room the very next day, telling people that she'd been personally invited as a guest of the White House press secretary. And that is a problem, because in the best of times, you can laugh at an almost Anchorman-esque parody of right-wing news. But much like the problem with Anchorman 2, it's just not the right time for Ron Burgundy right now. OAN's weird combination of far right-wing talking points and dirt-stupid reporting is incredibly dangerous at a time like this. Graham Ledger has explicitly called for Americans to defy the government's advice on social distancing and has justified his argument like this.
"I would rather die of coronavirus a free person than live like a slave to government engulfed in fear, panic, and with no liberty." This edition of the Daily Ledger is on its way to the Archives Library of Congress. Thank you for watching. I'm Graham Ledger. And remember, even when I'm wrong, I'm right.
Honestly, as monumentally dumb as that catchphrase is, it still might be too smart for Graham Ledger. He deserves a catchphrase more on his intellectual level. Maybe something like, I'm Graham Ledger, and remember, anything can be food if you eat it. And incidentally, that is just the tame TV version of Graham Ledger. Online, he's even worse. Just watch a video that he posted on Tuesday of this week, in which he claimed that it was important that he get his hair cut and framed it as a brave act of civil disobedience.
Do you know what we have to do? Because we're living under an edict not unlike Hitler's Germany or Joseph Stalin in the Soviet Union. We're living under tyranny instead of liberty. We have to do this in clandestine style. My hairdresser could be fined and or arrested for what she's doing. This is not unlike, of course, what they had to live through during Hitler's time.
Okay, a couple of things there. First of all, it's not essential that you get your hair cut. People on TV don't always look well groomed. Trust me. Trust me. Hey, look at me. Trust me. Second, Hitler didn't outlaw haircuts. He was a fascist about personal grooming. Other stuff too, but mainly that. And third, if we were living under a Nazi occupation, maybe don't film yourself en route to your secret underground resistance salon, which it took literally 5 minutes on Google to figure out, is presumably somewhere around the Moonlight Plaza shopping center in Encinitas, California. And look, the problem here is, the kind of misinformation OAN is spewing right now could end up getting people killed. And sadly, their message is being actively spread by the White House. So it is more important than ever to be on the lookout for OAN's bullshit and to make sure no one that you know is falling for it either. And I know that just calling it bullshit may seem crude. So for all of those of you who might desire a more eloquent plea, let me offer some language from Chanel Rion's website Wordabees. In this vespertine hour, I implore you to ignore a news network that attempts to gloze this administration's ineptitude during a pandemic, whether it be a stylist like Liz Wheeler, a Backpfeifengesicht like Graham Ledger, or a rakefire like Chanel Rion. For these people are not just irresponsible, my friends, they're a bunch of fucking fopdoodles. That is our show. Thank you so much for watching. We will see you next week. I'm John Oliver, and this edition of Last Week Tonight is for some reason actually on its way to the Library of Congress. Don't let bi-curious manatees fool you. Good night.